Hello and welcome back to another episode of Decide to Heal. I'm your host, Alejandra Crisafulli, and I have a very special guest with us. Rudi, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. I should have asked you before we got on. Say it.
We're all good. Rudi Riekstins.
Riekstins. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. Rudi has such an incredible heart, and I've had the privilege of getting to speak on stage with him before, and he and I have just been in the same kind of community and circle for quite some time. And the way that you share things, Rudi, is so powerful in the way in which you connect and engage with others. And there's a reason behind how you're able to do this and why you do this. So I'd love to just share with our Decide to Heal audience here just a little bit about you and what's on your heart and what brought you into this work that you currently do.
Well, firstly, I just have to say thank you so much for creating such a beautiful, safe space for people to show up, to learn, and to grow and want to achieve. I always think that's a great place to start because, podcasting is just so much work,
Yeah.
and we do it for the labor of love. And the love in it is in support of other people. And so whenever I find somebody who has the same heart and soul connection that I do, who's committed to transformation and supporting people, I want to just start by acknowledging that.
Thanks.
Having the privilege to be in a room twice with you and to see you on stage and move people and the work that you do and the communication that you have, it's so interesting for you to turn around and say, oh, I love being in a room with him because of how he communicates, because that's my experience of being in a room with you. You just have such a big heart and you're so kind and so generous. And when I say that, I mean with your words, with your time, and obviously with your impact, which I think is why we're all here.
Yeah.
I don't really know where to start with that question. I have, as everybody that's listening to this, just a very long, sad story of when I
Mm.
felt like I was disempowered until eventually one day I remembered who I am and who I came here to be, and that everything that I need to become the person that I want to be didn't in fact reside outside of me. There wasn't a car I needed, or a house I needed, or a spouse I needed, or a bank account dollar value I needed. I just already had it, everything just beautifully, divinely within me. I share that because there's so many people that are going to be listening to this today that have that thought in their minds that think, if only I'm going to get that thing, that elusive thing,
Yeah.
then I'm going to finally be worthy. Then
Totally.
I will be enough. And my whole life's journey was like this remembrance unfolding day by day of me giving away my power, me not feeling like I'm good enough, that I wasn't worthy, and then eventually getting to the place where I had to ask the question. And so I think what's beautiful about this is everybody can go through a journey. We hear that transformation usually comes at the bottom of a rock bottom. Somebody has to get to a point where they say, oh my gosh, I just physically cannot live another day like that. And
Yeah.
then you can also create transformation through joy. And I believe that we get to create transformation through joy. And for the benefit of whoever's listening to this that needs to hear this, my transformational journey really started when I sat by myself, not in front of a high ticket coach, not reading a book, not watching a documentary, a show. It was a moment where I sat with myself and I asked the question, is it even true that I'm not worthy?
Mm.
And in answering the question, and I don't mean sitting on a couch like this, answering the
Sure.
question, I mean taking out a pen, taking out a paper, and starting to really document my worth. Is it possible that I'm stupid? Is it possible that I'm not good enough? Is it possible that I'm not lovable? And then really starting to ask the questions like, well, you know what? Actually, I am a pretty freaking amazing friend. I am actually pretty smart. You know what? I own a company. I have these things. And being able to rebuild my belief in myself, I think that's always such a great place to start, because had I
Mhm.
not had a moment sitting with myself asking those really profound questions, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today, because I would
No.
still be looking at my old paradigm of who I was and how I showed up, and trying to fill that cup versus already realizing, gosh, I've just been looking in the wrong direction. I already am full. I am whole. I am complete.
Are you struggling with self-doubt, second guessing your every move, no matter how much success that you achieve? Because just Deep down, nothing you have done to heal has ever felt like enough. Do you want to quit that cycle and get coached live on Decide to Heal? Because in 45 minutes or less, I can help you identify the root cause of the problem you are dealing with and give you not just practical, but long term changes that you can implement as soon as we're done. This is completely free of charge, and all you have to do is fill out the application in the description below. Hmm. So true. And I'm curious what brought you to that moment where you were like, okay, I just need to sit with myself and really question what is this true? Are these things true that I believed in? So what was that moment?
Gosh, I was 26 years old at the time, and I had spent a lifetime, as I had alluded to, trying to fill my cup with money and physical possessions, cars, houses, that kind of thing. And I had achieved, tremendous success for a 26-year-old. And so I was sitting in a two-story loft apartment in Cape Town. I had a sports car in the garage. I was, dressed in very expensive brand clothing. And I just was supposed to, in that moment, feel like I'd finally arrived.
Right.
My older brother would always say, he would have these key moments. I'll never forget. He came home with his first BMW and he said to me, Rudy, I have arrived. And he showed me his car keys, like it was a defining moment. And then when, we bought our first house together, he walked in the door, he put his arm around my neck and he goes, we have
Now.
arrived, Rudy. So like there were these moments that when you collected things, it
Yeah.
was now somehow making you more worthy, more of a man. And not to say that he was right or wrong. It
Sure.
was just that that was what we believed in that moment. But when I had sat on that couch on that evening, I had just bought this two-story apartment. I'd furnished it in an entire weekend. I had been living abroad. I came back to South Africa. And so I was now setting my life up. And when I finally finished unpacking the last of the boxes, I had my favorite meal in front of me. I had my favorite TV show friends, ready on a DVD box set to sit down with. I poured myself a really nice, glass of wine. And I sat there and I thought, I'm going to celebrate me. Like, yeah, because I
Mhm.
have arrived. But what's interesting is when I sat down, I started crying because I realized I still
Wow.
felt broken.
Yeah.
Even though I had purchased all the things externally to make me feel
Right. You
validated,
collected the stuff.
yeah, it didn't change anything. I was still me inside. And that was a really big moment.
Oh my goodness. I love that you're saying that too, because I feel like so much of what we do stems back to this place of we're seeking happiness, right? We just want to feel happy because if we're happy, then everything is good and we feel good inside and it takes care of that brokenness or the unworthiness. Like I'm just want to be happy. And in some way or another, we're trying to collect approval in some ways through these things that we think will give us the approval within that then will equal happiness in some way. And to have collected all those things, Rudy, and be sitting in that moment, and then the tears come, what a profound awareness and breakthrough, which, we would look at as a breakdown that comes to the breakthrough. But what an incredible moment of clarity and presence to be attuned to your emotional state, and that all these things you were trying to make yourself happy with and worthy with and not broken with was still an empty plate.
I think everything that ever happens in life is always happening to serve the person that we get to become. And
Mm,
for many people, I think that buying the things and then realizing you're not being fulfilled, you'd move on to what's the next task, what is the next thing that you have to achieve, or the next accomplishment that you're going to move your focus to. Is really what I think happens with most people. For me, it was like time slowed down, my awareness slowed down. I love that you used the word a moment ago, presence. I think presence is power.
yeah.
When you are present, you are in your power. When you are present, you are connected to God. You're connected to
Mm,
yourself. You're connected to everything that was, is, will ever be. You are your most powerful, authentic self when you are simply, purely in that moment present. But so many people are too busy filling themselves. Now, you'll notice I said earlier, I poured myself a really big glass of delicious, expensive
yeah.
wine. I don't
Yeah.
drink today because I want to stay present.
Yeah.
I eat very carefully because I want to stay present. I am very cautious about who I spend my time with, what it is that I'm doing so that I can be present. And in that moment, the greatest gift that I got was actually sitting by myself, pushing away the dinner, pushing away the food, turning off the TV, and just sitting there and allowing to feel the emotion of the moment, because I would normally have numbed that. I would
Mm.
have had a drink or called a
Yeah.
friend or distracted myself with the movie, and done anything. Got up, started a project. I would have done anything to just not feel. But in that moment, I was feeling it. And I asked myself the question, why do I still feel like a stupid 6-year-old?
Yeah.
Now, when I was 6 years old, I walked into my school for the very first day, and the teacher called me stupid. She actually made me sit in a dunce's chair and put on a dunce's hat. And she
Mm.
said to me, "You're stupid." And in that moment, I couldn't recognize she's an old woman, she's unhappy, hurt people, hurt people. Nope. I just heard, "You're
Yeah.
not worthy." And in that moment, I sat on the chair looking at the kids look at me and thinking, wow, you're really not worthy. Now, what's interesting is I think every kid in that class sat on that chair at some point in time.
Sure. Right.
But for me, it was this moment where I was signaled out as, you are
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And I just didn't feel like I was good enough. And so it changed the entire trajectory of my school career, because I never studied, I never did homework, I never really tried, because I fully believed that I was stupid.
Mm.
But sitting in that living room on that night, in that moment, having all the physical things around me, millions in your bank account, cars, and all the stuff, you're supposed to feel like you've arrived. I mean, it's what every movie, every book, everything
Yeah.
that, we consume tells us, that you're eventually going to have that. But I sat there that night and I realized, man, my two best friends steal money from me, and I pretend like I don't notice because I don't want
Mm.
to lose the friendships. They're
Mhm.
like, "Hey, can I borrow money?" And then they never pay it back. And then they avoid it. They don't want to talk about it. They'll come back, a little while later and be like, "Hey, I just need another." And that was the quality of my relationships. I
Yeah.
realized my girlfriend was cheating on me, or at least I suspected she was, but I was still there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ignoring the evidence. And so there were all these things that were just
Yeah.
saying, man, you still don't feel like you're worthy.
Yeah.
And that moment of being able to just sit with it, that for me was so defining, because
Mm.
I now teach it. Had I just moved forward, I don't think I'd be qualified.
No. Oh my goodness. Amazing. That part that you were just talking about with the two friends and your girlfriend, that's that approval part, the piece that I was sharing too, of like so much of it is why do we keep doing that kind of stuff? I'm curious, why do you feel success or those possession type things are so important to us as human beings?
I've alluded to it all along, because I believe people need to hear information in many different ways for them to really be able to absorb new information. Because what we're
Mhm.
talking about right now is a shift in way of being. You shift how you think about something, and it shifts the person that you become. And so I continue to remind people that we already have everything within us to be who we came here to be. I believe that we arrived pre-qualified. We already arrived here with the programming, the coding, the awareness, the experience, everything. We are ready to be who we came here to be. It's a matter of journeying towards that destination. For many of us, we feel inadequate. We feel inadequate because at some point in time, probably as you're aware, under the age of 7, human brain absorbs all information as a fact, doesn't have the ability to process logic or reason. So we just receive instruction. Children should be seen and not heard, so you don't feel like you're good enough. Your parents say money doesn't grow on trees, and you feel like, well, money's hard to come by, and we're not worthy of money, and they have money and we don't have money, so we can't be worthy, but they can be worthy. And why is that person smart and I'm not smart? Why can that person sing and I can't sing? And
Hmm.
so it's just the reminder of all the things that really prevent us from feeling like we are whole. And the more I felt like I wasn't whole, the more I needed to find things to make me feel whole. I also said, every time we consume TV of any kind, TV, movies, and I'm not talking about self development, it's always telling you that you get the girl and then you feel loved. You
Mhm.
meet the guy and then you can be happy ever after. Well, that's not the case. You've got to be happy to meet the happy ever after. You've
Absolutely.
got to fool yourself first. And so there's not
Mhm.
enough information out there that's reinforcing to people that we need to be okay.
Yeah.
And the same way we teach a dog, I need you to pee outside on the grass on command, and then yeah, good boy, pet on the head, and then the dog gets the dopamine, dog wants the cookie again, and so now it learns the pattern of the behavior. we're all conditioned, and we're conditioned for that rush of self-fulfillment, that rush of somebody giving us validation, that rush of somebody else saying, hey, you're good enough and you're worthy and you deserve to be here. And so we do anything and everything to avoid pain. The
Yep.
brain divides information. It's set up in a way to avoid the potential of experiencing pain.
Mhm.
But you see, if we're going to have potential pleasure, potential pain, and the brain's going to do everything to avoid pain, we're actually now focused on the thing that we don't want, which is pain. And so we keep ourselves trapped in this, I want this to fulfill me, I need this to fulfill me. It doesn't. And then you create the cyclical cycle of I need and I don't get, and it just makes it worse and worse and worse and worse. And so, the better answer is, how do we create that shift or that change? If you've got children listening to this, good Lord, get on your knees, get level with them, and remind them every moment of every day they have everything within them to be who they came here to be, that they are completely
Mhm.
whole, they are unique, they are beautiful, they are gifted, they are blessed, and they are perfect. And then if that's you, how about you say exactly the same thing to yourself every single day when you look at yourself in the mirror? Have reminders everywhere that when you don't feel that you're worthy, that you're putting your value somewhere else. Like, when I feel like I've walked into a room and I'm not getting the respect I think I should get in the room, or maybe somebody doesn't see me or value me or appreciate me, because it happens. And in those moments, you feel like, well, why wasn't I good enough? Why didn't they like me? Why didn't they want me to be included? Why wasn't I invited to the dinner, or whatever the situation is? And then
Yeah.
in that moment, I ask myself, whoa, 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 where are you putting your value? And it's that
Mhm.
question, where are you putting your value? And then I realized, man, I'm putting my value in somebody else because on social media, they show up a certain way. And then in real person, they didn't show up as the person that they're pretending to be. And now I'm not worthy because they didn't. I'm like, come on, man.
That's
And it's
so
that conversation of returning the power back to me.
yes, returning the power back to you. That whole what you were describing is you just described basically a 360 cycle. It's that patterning of like again and again and again repeating the same pattern that has been passed down generationally, that's like instilled in us through the news, through social media, through relationships that just continue to keep us stuck in that cycle. So I love that you're looking at it from a perspective of where am I putting my value? What a great question to have, because that also brings you presence, right?
Hmm.
To stop in the moment that you're going down the path of these repeated patterns, cycles, belief, whatever you want to call it, to stop and gather yourself and really make the decision of which path am I going to continue to keep feeding, because I believe at whatever you feed grows, right? Like it's just going to continue to keep going. And so where are you putting your value and what are you putting your value on? Go ahead. I was going to ask
No,
you
I
another
was just going to
question, but
say,
it sounds
like
like,
Tony Robbins always says, where your focus goes, your energy flows.
yeah,
And what I want to bring to the awareness of the audience, the latest scientific data tells us that by pure focused intent, meaning you're thinking about something, that begins to expand. If you were to do an exercise right now, assuming you're not driving a car, you're not working with machinery where you could injure yourself or someone,
yeah.
I want you just to pause for a moment, close your eyes, and then imagine your heart. And if you could close your eyes and feel your heart, close your eyes,
Mhm.
feel your heart, connect in that moment to your heart. All the energy in your body is literally flowing into your heart right now.
Yeah.
The external energy which is around you. Now, remind you, the universe is comprised of nothing but energy. It's these atoms that are moving, these molecules that are shifting and forming. And by focused intent, it expands and it grows. And so the moment you think about something, what you want, what you don't want, an outcome that you're looking for, you are now activating the molecules within what it is that you're looking for. And it is drawing the experience to you. So it is expanding. The energy is literally traveling to creating and expanding whatever it is the outcome that you're looking for. The thing that trips most people up is, as you know, we have anywhere from 50,000, thoughts a day. High
Yeah.
achievers have been, tossed as many as 75,000
Yeah.
thoughts a day. And so every one of those thoughts is a focus on an outcome of what are you looking for?
Mm.
And we need to catch ourselves. So I love that you started today talking about it, because that wasn't an intention of mine at all to bring it in.
Yeah.
But presence is power. And I'm going to remind you again that if you're firing off 50,000 thoughts a day, let's say you're awake 16 hours a day, and you divide that into the number of hours that you're awake and divide that into the minutes. I mean, that is a ping, 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 ping of intention that you're creating something. Is it something that you want, or is it something that you don't want? And when you are present and you're paying attention to how you feel, paying attention to what it is that you're thinking about, you're paying attention to what is it that you're doing, what is the mood around what it is that you're doing, paying attention to your body, well, now you disrupt the unconscious pattern because of all those thoughts, 95% of them you're not even aware of. And
Yeah,
if you want to change your life, you want to transform, you want to create profound impact, you want to, make a tremendous amount of money, find a loving relationship, do anything you can, but you have to take control of the unconscious mind. And the only way to do that is to be present in the mind and present in the body.
absolutely. Isn't it fascinating too how many of us are afraid of presence? And yet it's one of the greatest. I mean, like most of my devotionals in the morning when I'm sitting down to, read my Bible, to spend time with God, there's so much of the message that's like, be present with me, come into the presence, because this is where you unite with me, this is where we commune, is in this present space. You can't hear my voice, see my work, listen to my word if you're doing this, that, the other, thinking about this, thinking about that, people pleasing this person, perfectionizing. That's not a word, but go with me. Perfectionizing like every single little thing and controlling it again and again. But there's like this fear of us genuinely being present. Can you speak to that? What do you think that's about?
I actually teach alignment. And, for so many people, they think, oh, well, yeah, I understand the concept of alignment. It means aligning a thing. But we need to be aligned with what it is that we're wanting to create. And the more we align into a very specific anything, we are removing the resistance and we're speeding up the potential of whatever it is we're wanting to do, whatever it is we're wanting to create. I want to explain this to you in a very different way. And I'm going to ask your audience to bear with me as I go on a journey with you.
Okay.
I believe the human brain needs information and needs information placed in layers. Otherwise, it's just a barrage of information that gets put down on you. And then you're like, whoa, okay, so what do I do with that information? So I want to share a story with you. Michael Jackson, arguably, is the greatest singer songwriter in the history of modern music.
Yeah.
He had the ability to be able to put music down with such complexity that it was just the bridge between cultures. It was music that carried a tune that drew and captivated audiences. I read recently that, and I'm not necessarily a Michael Jackson fan. I just grew up, obviously, with a household that was familiar with his music. My brother loved his music.
Yeah.
And so it was always in our home. And I had the privilege of seeing him live. But here's the thing: more than 5,000 people every time he had a concert would pass out from overexcitement of literally being in his presence, of seeing him on
Okay.
stage. I mean, just think about that. An average of 5,000 people
A
passing
lot.
out just because they're watching this man in his zone of genius.
Yeah.
Now, what I love about this guy is he had more number one hits than any other artist. He could just produce hit after hit after hit. Everybody else back in the day would put out a single hit song, and then they would just throw another 10 songs on the LP. And they would say, well, that one song will carry the album. And then that will get the radio play, will sell the albums, and then they'll make their money, they'll sell their tour tickets. Well, Michael Jackson said, no, I want every song to be a number one hit. I want every song to be amazing. I want every song to be an experience. And then he was able to successfully do that. And later in his life, when he had been interviewed, and this is countless interviews that you can research, they always asked him, what is it exactly that you did? How are you capable of doing what no one else before you or even with you has ever been able to do? Like, you just produce hit after hit after hit. At one time, he had 3 or 4 top 10 songs in the charts at one time. Like, just insanely
Yeah.
talented individual. And he turned around and said, "Oh my gosh, I don't write the music." And they're like, "No, but your name's credited on every
Yeah.
song."
But you did. Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, "No, no, God gave it to me."
Yeah.
And they say, "What do you mean God gave it to you?" And he said, "Well, I would be in my kitchen making tea, and then all of a sudden the song would land in my head.
Yep.
And my job was to make the music sound exactly the same on the album as God put it in my head." Now, here's why I'm explaining this. He was such a fanatic about creating it exactly the way that God gave it to him that there is another, separate from the story I'm sharing with you, story where he was producing an album and they were so frustrated because they couldn't find a very particular sound he wanted on the album. There was a doof sound that was missing. So they played all the instruments, they brought in all the computers to make all the different generated sounds, and no one could find the doof that was going to appease Michael Jackson. And so he was frustrated and he said, "Find me the sound. It's doof. Doof. After I go, da da da, I need a doof. And it needs to be a very specific da 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 doof. Da 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 da." And they were so angry because they couldn't make him happy. Eventually, he walks out of the studio and he slams the door and he says, "I'll be back. Doof." And he comes back in. He goes, "That's the
That's the
sound."
sound.
So they built a door in the studio and went doof, doof, doof. And so
Yeah.
again, when asked, "Why did you go to those lengths?" he said, "Because that was how God gave it to me." Alignment is when you are in your mind, your emotions, in your body, and in the energetic frequency around you is all going in one unified direction. When you are in that, it creates this alignment where you are connected to source. You are connected to the divinity of all things. You are open to receiving this channel of information that just drops into you. That is how we hear things. That's how we see things. That's how we have these visions of where we want to go, what we want to do. That's where music comes from, artwork comes from. That's where creativity comes from. It is the ability to receive. We are these energetic receptors. But when we're stressed about where's money going to come from, we're no
Yeah.
longer in alignment with receiving the divine. When we are greedy or angry or resentful or manipulative, well, now we're again not in alignment with divinity.
Yeah.
And when we are sitting in presence, and the power is in presence, we're aligning our energy with the body with the emotion with the mental body, and then the awareness to all of these is where the power lies. And the awareness is who we are. When the body goes, you're left with the awareness. The awareness is what returns to heaven. And your awareness is observing your thoughts and your emotions. Your emotions update the body updates the energetic frequency around you, which, scientifically speaking, is anywhere from 1 to 15 feet around you. And that frequency that surrounds you is speaking on your behalf. It is buying on your behalf. Your next experience, what you're doing, where you're going. But when you are in your calm, centered self, feeling joy, feeling gratitude, feeling love, feeling appreciation, you have now opened, if you will, a portal to your highest and greatest self. The version of you that I said in the beginning knows everything that ever is, was, will ever be. And that is where everything that you've ever wanted is aligned with you. And in that moment, you are your most powerful, centered self. I do this every single day. I connect to that force. That force is my way of communing with where I came from and where I'm going. And when I can connect to that and I can sit with myself in my presence and in the presence of what created me and the energy of abundance, of love, of joy, fulfillment, of freedom, I'm not worried now about my bank account. I'm not worried about where I'm going tomorrow, who I'm going to see, because I'm so reminded of the divinity of everything in that moment. And that's where we need to live our lives. Now, here's the beautiful thing. We do that in the morning, and then a bird poops on our shoulder later in the day. And we now have a roadmap to get back to being calm and
Yeah.
centered and
Yes.
kind. Somebody doesn't respond to our email. That's okay. We know how to get back. We don't get the deal. That's okay. We know how to get back. And the more we spend time there, the more we're aligning to the potential of God dropping the next number one hit in our head, or inventing a new toothpick, or creating a new business or a new opportunity or a new soul aligned partnership. But we have to be in alignment.
Yes. We started talking off about, success and what we think it is and all those things that we were collecting. What you were just describing is what I see as genuine, true success. It's the ability to relinquish, to surrender to God and allow that alignment that can only be tapped into when you're present and not busy with all the other things, the human things, the worldly things that we're trying to fill ourselves with. But that's how I see true success, what you were describing.
I want to challenge that thought because I believe that's the road to true success. And I think that the ultimate level of success is where you're at right now. And that is where you are giving selflessly of yourself every day in every single way.
Yeah.
For so many of us, success is I'm going to feel a certain way. Success is I'm going to have enough. Success is, I'm going to have a big house or a beautiful marriage or kids that love me and want to talk to me after they grow up and move out. All of those things add to success. But the greatest levels of joy, fulfillment, and freedom, which is what we're all looking for, is only ever available to us when we give everything of ourselves away every day. The nights that I go to bed and I've spent 8 hours in front of an audience and I have poured everything into them, that when I leave the room, there is nothing left for me to give. Like I
Mm.
left everything in that room, and I get back to my hotel room and I put my head on my pillow, and it's 7:30 at night and I'm fighting to stay awake until 8 because at least it's a
Yeah.
respectable hour and I won't get laughed at tomorrow. And I'm lying there and there's nothing left to give.
Mm.
I've got the biggest grin on my face. And I want to remind people in those moments, I'm not thinking about how much money did I make today. I'm not thinking about how much money am I going to make tomorrow. I'm just thinking about every face of every person whose light bulb went off, where they
Mhm.
had that moment of remembrance of who they are, of the divinity that is flowing to them and through them, and who they connected to. And when they remember that and they've got that look of like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is truth. That is my truth. And then they realize how incredibly beautiful and magnificent they are. There's no amount of money that could make you feel that way when you're witnessing that happen again and again and again.
Yeah, and you're right because what I was sharing is the pathway to that, so to speak, because if that's not the pathway to that ultimate result of we don't come or to be served, we come to serve others. We're here to serve others. We are not here to be served. But you cannot get to that place genuinely if that alignment and presence hasn't happened with God, because then I think it can become something unhealthy where it's more of a people pleasing type thing. And I don't know, maybe you have a different opinion of that, Rudy, but it just from what I've experienced myself and seen through clients too, that there is also that like I just have to serve and I have to keep serving and I have to make it all about it, but it's the busyness of not being present with God and seeking still, like, fill my cup because I don't feel full. And if I give all this, then. But what you were talking about is that beautiful essence of just like, I have served with no attachment, with no intention, with no need for anything in receipt back.
To somebody who's listening to this episode, because this is so good, is that if you are right now in a place, maybe you have a business and you're serving your company, your employees, your team, or maybe you are a mom or you're a dad and you're serving your family, or maybe you're coaching and you're wanting to serve a community. If you are counting the thank yous, then you're in the wrong servitorship. Now, I want to give you a moment reprieve. God knows I've been there where I walk off stage and I'm like, I didn't get a standing ovation.
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I good enough? And then I'm nitpicking what it is that I did rather than just letting it go, let go, let God. But I'm in that moment, I'm deciding how do I want to be received,
Yeah.
or if people afterwards don't message me, or if people don't take my free offer, and I'm judging my effectiveness based on external information. That just means I'm not aligned in that moment. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It doesn't mean that I'm not an aligned individual. It doesn't mean that I'm not acting in accordance with who I should be and where I should go. It just means at that moment I have slipped. Now, we started the episode today sharing that there are times I will walk into a room, and I share this because about 8 months ago, I spoke in a room and there were some of the world's biggest speakers in that room, people that I grew up reading their books, just aspiring to be like
Yeah.
them, and then to be in a room with them and to be on stage with them and to go to dinner with them and to break bread with them. I was like this was like me geeking out. As like, oh my God, my 17, 20-year-old self would be losing his mind right now for the opportunity that I'm in right now. But what's interesting is, I didn't feel like they wanted me at the table. I didn't feel welcome. I feel like I was included because I had to be versus wanted to be. And that was me playing the game in my head
For
where I
sure.
created a narrative because I have no idea what they were thinking.
Right.
And
No.
nor do I really, even care what they were
Yeah.
thinking. But in that moment, I did. In the moment, I felt like I wasn't worthy and they didn't want me. And here's the thing, I am 47 years old. I've been doing this work for, gosh, 20 plus years. I am so good at what I do. I would
Yes.
say I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. I would go as far as say no one in the world does exactly what it is that I offer.
Yep.
And here I am sitting at a table not even a year ago, and I'm in the same place so many people come to me with, where I've put my value somewhere else, because we fall into these patterns of the past. But
Yep.
the thing is, it's not that we don't fall back. It's how long do we stay there? And how
Mhm.
quickly can we shift out of it? And what are the tools that we have from our little spiritual toolbox that we can pull out to remind ourselves who we are, so we can then step forward again in our power? And there's the difference is, we have these moments where we think, oh, if somebody sees me and validates me for what it is that I'm doing, or I'm changing that person's life, that somehow makes me better in my life. But when you literally just wake up, as you said, every day and serve and let go, serve and let go,
Yep.
it has been a work journey for me. I mean, a work journey for me, of being able to walk into a room, put everything down, and then walk away and trusting they get what they need. I've been
Mhm.
in rooms. I was in a room in New York City with 100 compliance officers, and an organization
Goodness.
hired me to come in and
Okay.
train. These are lawyers and they work in compliance,
Oh, goodness.
and there's no facial expressions,
Yeah.
there's no emotion. They're just looking at you. 8 hours later, I say, thank you so much. It's been amazing being here. I love you. Have an amazing rest of your day. And they don't even say thank you. There's no clap. They just pick up their laptops, their notebooks, pack things up, stand up, and walk out of the room with no communication to even each other. And I was like, what the
Okay.
F? Like in that moment, I was like, I will never go into a room like that
Yeah.
ever again.
Yeah. Yes.
And here's the beautiful thing. 6 or 8 months later, I get a message from the head person saying, you'll never believe, what's been coming out now. It
Wow.
took 6 to 8 months to
The
percolate.
seed that was planted.
And
Yeah.
here I am in that moment, so arrogant as to
Yeah.
know the
Yeah.
plan of when someone should be ready for them to have their moment. And
Yeah.
that was just such a turning point for me. And that's where I've stopped looking for the validation.
Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Looking for the validation. There's one last piece I would love for us to address or talk about, because I've heard you speak to this before, and I'm curious because I've never really heard like the in depth conversation around it, Rudy, which is about priming. So would you share with us like what you teach or know, like what is priming, and how does one, yeah, connect to this, and doesn't even connect to what we've been talking about today? I'm sure it does in some way, or maybe you've been inputting it here and there as you've been sharing, but I'd love to just point blank, what is priming, and share with us about that.
I love the question. And yes, I have absolutely been layering information throughout the entire moment, because I also acknowledge that every moment is the only moment you ever have, right? So
Yeah.
talk about another level of presence.
Presence, yes.
And when I'm being interviewed, I have no idea what's going to be asked. And I
Yeah.
don't know what information is going to be required of me.
Yeah.
And so my job is to always bring information that is a frequency resonance of reminding people of who they really are, of the
Mm,
power of what's within them. And that when you shift that, it shifts the frequency of who you are.
mhm,
Priming is a process that I teach of how to start your day. I'm not Hal Elrod. It's not the 5 a.m. Robin Sharma Club. I'm not trying to get you to wake up at the butt crack of dawn, as my ex girlfriend from Canada used to say. It is simply just how you wake up when you choose to wake up. But being intentional, the very first 20 minutes of the day, the brain is the most susceptible to change and influence.
so
The
true.
majority of people, and the percentages is like 91 or 93% of people, scroll more than 300 times before they get out of bed.
It's
When
crazy.
you open your phone, talk to your spouse, turn on the news, pick up a book, anything, look at your bank account, check your email, any of these things, you are receiving outside stimulation. Your brain is reacting and responding. So, meaning every time you think a thought, your brain has to take that thought and produce a chemical, put the chemical into the body that tells the body how to react and respond to the initial thought. So remember, I said to you a while back in the episode, go back and listen. I had mentioned we have this multitude of energetic frequency that is around us. You have
Yes.
your physical body, you then have an emotional body, then you have the mental body, which is where you think the thoughts, and then there's you, which is actually the awareness to the thoughts. Well, every time you have a thought that is happening in your mental body, the thought around you literally is an energetic frequency, like an egg around the physical body. Now you have a thought. The brain has to take that thought and it has to produce a chemical. So that creates the chemical, and that interaction is called emotion. So now the brain produces the emotion. The emotion dumps into the bloodstream. The bloodstream sends the chemical throughout the body, and now the body knows how to react or respond. So let's roll this back. You
Yep.
open your eyes, and in the very first 20 minutes of the day, the brain doesn't remember who you are, where you're going, what you've done, what you want to do. It is now trying to remember who you are. So the brain's turning on. It sees your side table, your spouse, your dog, your bed, whatever it is. And now it starts to remember, oh, that's who I am.
Yeah.
When it remembers who you are, it starts to bring memories back from the day before, the day before that, the day before that, and it starts to produce the chemicals. Remember, I said 50,000 to 75,000 for high achievers thoughts a day, and those are all producing chemicals. Those chemicals are going into the body. Those chemicals then, in turn, change the physical structure that is your body. So if you wake up and say, I am strong, every cell in your body becomes strong. If you say, I am healthy, every cell in your body becomes healthy. If you say, I am beautiful, every cell in your body vibrates to meet that frequency. But if you were to wake up and see the news and it's about a president that you don't care for, it's about politics that you don't care for, it's about decision making, it's about tariffs, it's about fires, it's about famine. What is the emotion that's being produced? So the
Mhm.
thoughts are lack or unworthiness, victimization, and so you are now producing feelings in your body that says you're not good enough, you're not worthy, that things can happen to you, life isn't serving you, and you feel like you lose control. That now has two reactions. The one reaction is the brain goes out of coherence. It goes into a state of fear, fight, or flight. And when your brain, left and right brain, stop communicating, you lose logic, reason, inspiration, intuition, and above all else, you lose your ability to create.
Mm.
So going back to the Michael Jackson analogy, you cannot receive the song. You can't
Right.
receive the idea. You can't get the hit. You
Yeah.
can't get whatever it is that you're supposed to come and bring into this world if you're in heightened stress, because you lose all of those faculties. You essentially lose yourself. Most people live in that state. 75% of people in the world today are living in chronic stress 3/4 of their day, which means every minute they're awake. The time they're not stressed is when they're sleeping. So they lose themselves. They lose the logic, reason, inspiration, intuition, creativity. But every time you feel that emotion, it actually sends an energetic impulse out of your body and it updates the energy around you. I'll always ask this question, especially if I'm in an audience, and I'll say, have you ever walked into a room and met someone you just didn't like them? And people are like, yeah, all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
even if they looked good, like they
Yeah.
sound good, everything about them's great, but you just don't like something. Well, that's you walking into somebody's energy. Their energy is touching your energy. Information is passing, and you are picking up what their intent is to do to you, how they want to take advantage of you, what they're literally thinking about doing with you or to you. And in that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want that. And so you want to back away from it. But the reverse is true. You can walk into a room and be like, gosh, I'm just so magnetized. Oh my God, Alejandro, you're just amazing. I don't know why I feel so good when I'm with you. And it's because your energy is permeating love and joy and fulfillment and freedom. And so we're gravitated to you. So many people are unaware of this. When you bring your awareness to the fact in the first 20 minutes a day, your brain is susceptible to change, it's susceptible to influence, and how you feel in the first 20 minutes of the day is actually going to dictate how you're going to be the rest of the day. So
Mm.
think about that. If you are waking up and in the very first 20 minutes of the day, you feel abundant, joyful, at peace, at ease, grateful, and
Yep.
you feel it for 20 minutes, you don't touch your phone, you don't talk to anyone else, you don't receive any stimulation, your brain is now going to say, got it. We will filter all information for the rest of the day through that emotion. So
Yes.
that's why when you walk outside and a bird poops on your shoulder, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a blessing.
Great.
This is like the best thing ever. And who cares if you're about to go into a meeting and you've got to
Yeah.
stand in front of a board? I would
Oh,
walk in and I'd be like, guys, when a bird poops on your
I
shoulder, it's
gotta
good
poop.
luck. This meeting's going to go well. So, and I would get started. I wouldn't look at it like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. But too many people start the day off on the wrong foot. I want to just touch on something because priming is a process that I teach that within 66 days, your life will be completely transformed. I
Mm,
have people that are inside my community that came to me in very difficult situations. They're
yeah.
like, I don't know how I'm going to make it out. Even just the minimal amount to join is just like they could barely even make that. And now we're talking 67 days later. I got a message yesterday from somebody saying, you'll never believe what happened.
Amazing. Of
I
course.
call those "you never believe what happened" love letters, because people are like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And I love you. And
Yes.
here's the gift: it's that every day you have the potential to wake up and curate an emotion of who you want to be. You are now aligning, you are in presence, you are aligning your thoughts, your feelings. Now you're also aligning the energy, the physical body, and all of this is aligned in alignment with what you want, which is love, joy, fulfillment, freedom, abundance, all of the things that are yours. And they are literally, I mean, God gifted these to you. It's your birthright, but you have to be in alignment with it. And there's the crux. If you
Right.
think that you need validation from someone else, you're not in alignment.
Yes.
If somebody
No.
doesn't like you and it's upsetting you, you're not in alignment. If you feel like a victim, you're not in alignment. And
Moment.
so it's bringing yourself back to yourself. And it's
Mm.
so easy. Anyone can do it, but will you do it? Because tomorrow morning, when you grab your phone,
Yeah. That's the question. Will you? So, ooh, we'll end with that powerful. Will you? What will you choose to do? What will you decide? Rudy, you mentioned this community that you teach this in. Will you? Because that was really valuable, and I want people to know about how they can connect with you and how you can support in serving where they're at, so that they know their value. What's something that you can share with us
you
as
know,
far as how you support people and serve?
I'm feeling inspired to gift something to your audience. And what's interesting is at the very beginning of the episode, Alejandra asked me, what would you like to mention? How can I serve you? And I said
Yeah,
nothing really. I was like, I have a community, but I don't really promote anything. But right now, I feel very called to share with your audience. I'm going to gift a free meditation. So when you do your priming practice in the morning, when you're aligning to your highest self, it's literally shifting your emotional state. I have a meditation that I created that is literally changing people's lives.
great,
Thousands of people's lives have transformed profoundly by doing this meditation. I'm going to give it to you for free. And the meditation is called the mood elevator. So you get into your elevator in your mind, and then you alter your state by shifting your emotion. You shift the frequency, and as you shift the frequency, you shift the world that you're in. When you open your eyes, you're a different person living a different life in a different reality, except everything looks the same. Because when you've altered the vibrational frequency of who you are, by law, physics, everything has to change. And so it looks the same. The life looks the same. The bank account looks the same right from where you're at. But as you start to take steps in your life, you'll start to realize how beautifully, profoundly they've changed. I'm going to go on and mark that for free for your audience. I will send you a link to add into the show notes. So that is
perfect.
on my
Thank you.
website under
Yeah,
resources, the Mood Elevator Meditation. I'm going to gift it to you for free. And then the community where I actually teach priming, because there's 8 very specific steps that you have to follow. Within that community, it truly is just an entry point for people to be able to get the information, because I do not have the time or the
sure.
resources to be able to serve the volume of people that are wanting to get this information. And
Yeah,
so I'm gifting to anyone who joins my community. It is literally $1 to sign up for the first month. And then after that, it's $49 a month. The community is going to be going up. There was an introductory rate, so it will go to $222. But anybody that signs up under this will be grandfathered in. And that can be found on rudyriekstins.com. That's under the community tab. But
amazing.
I appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your generosity, your mastery in this that you teach, and thank you for all that you are and all that you do to serve and support those. So, thank you everybody for joining us on this amazing episode of Decide to Heal, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.